Greetings, students, and welcome to this special edition of the Professor Travel Domestic Edition. I am your host, the Professor Travel, coming to you from Southern California. This is the website, the vlog, and the podcast that you come to in order to learn more about different travel destinations. This is where we come as a community in order to discuss them more. Hopefully, this will inspire you to travel more and ultimately to enjoy life more. Now, you can reach me at a variety of my different social media sites, of course, starting with my website at The Professor Travel. On YouTube, on Facebook, and now on TikTok, you can reach me at The Professor Travel. If you're an Instagrammer, you can find me there at _Professor_Travel. If you're a Twitter, then you can find me on Twitter at TheProfessorTR1. And then finally, if you're a blogger, you can find me on Blogspot at theprofessortravel.blogspot.com. Today, I want to introduce you to our visiting professor, Mark McClure from the cruise world. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm good. Thanks. How are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate your time. And we're going to be talking a little bit about Michigan today. But before we get started, just to share with my students, I'd like to know a little bit about your background, maybe some of your credentials, either for education or from places that you've traveled before.
All right. So I was born and raised in Michigan. After high school, I attended and graduated from Specs Howard School of Broadcast Arts. I had this huge dream of breaking into the television business. But after some grinding and a few years, not much success, I took a complete turn and decided to join the Army. So in the Army, I was a military police corrections officer. So I didn't really get to see the world that I wanted to, and like some folks in the military do. So what I pretty much saw was the inside of a prison every day. But, after I got out of the Army, I went to work for the federal government, and that's what I've done for the past 20 years. And I've been very blessed as far as travel goes, and I've been able to see over 75 different countries.
Wow, that's amazing. Like, what are your favorites?
Well, Rome, Italy is one of my favorites. I've been able to visit Rome and climb to the top of the Tower of Pisa, go down inside the into the bowels of the Colosseum where the gladiators were, to ride a gondolier in the canals of Venice. And it's just, Italy is probably one of my favorite places, but it's hard to pick one. I've seen a lot of amazing things, and it's a great big beautiful world that I'm just blessed to have been able to get out and see.
Well, I will definitely want to make sure that we continue to talk with you about that as we continue to move forward. At the time of recording right now, we're obviously locked in the pandemic, so we can't really travel internationally. But coincidentally, one of my favorite spots also in Italy is the city of Verona. And I'm not sure if you've ever had an opportunity to go there.
I have. When we did a cruise, as you may see, cruising is my thing. We did a cruise out of Venice. So when we were there pre-cruise, we took a day trip over to Verona, and what a beautiful little city. The whole Romeo and Juliet, and we did a tour there. It was very, very beautiful.
Absolutely. So we'll continue to talk in the future about all the different international travel. I'm looking forward to it again. I know you have a cruise coming up here. I have a cruise at the end of the year. I'm hoping we'll launch to Australia. So we'll see how that one goes for me. So wish me luck on that. But today we're here to talk about Michigan. So let's start, because I know absolutely nothing about the history of Michigan. Can you share with us a little bit about your knowledge? I mean, having lived there your entire life, just share with us a little bit about what you know about Michigan.
All right. So I know that many, many years ago, when the Europeans first came over and settled in what is now Michigan, it was already inhabited by a bunch of Native American tribes. Okay. And you can still see that today in a lot of the names that we have for our cities, towns, and everything. Even Michigan is named after that. So we've got like Chippewa County, Ogama, Osceola. All of those names derive from the Native Americans. Very, very strong presence here in the state.
Excellent. Now, I know you guys are surrounded by a couple of the Great Lakes as well. Which ones are you specifically surrounded in there?
Oh man. Well, we've got Huron, Michigan, Superior, Erie is down over more so on by Ohio, and then Ontario. So I mean, they're all I believe four of the five Great Lakes are directly on us.
Excellent. And one thing that's unique, I think, about your state, and I've done multiple interviews on a variety of different states, but I've never really seen a state that is almost completely cut in half. I mean, you have a northern peninsula section and a southern peninsula section. Any idea of like was there ever talk within your state of making it into two separate states or whatever the thought was?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot in my lifetime, a lot of talk about the folks in the Upper Peninsula wanting to secede from us and be their own state. I don't think it's really ever gotten anywhere, but they kind of see themselves as a different state. They're called the Upers from where we're at here. So, we're some of the people in the Upper Peninsula will call us in the Lower Peninsula the Trolls, because we're below the bridge, and they're
Oh,
referring to the Mackinac Bridge that connects the Lower and Upper Peninsula. So I take a little bit of offense to that, but the
yeah.
Upper Peninsula is a beautiful place. It's a special place, but it's beautiful, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about that later.
Excellent. And then I know obviously with the history of Michigan, you have the automotive industry has played a
Yeah.
huge role in development there. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, Michigan, or more specifically, the largest city in Michigan, Detroit, is commonly known for a couple of things. And number one is obviously cars. Back in the early 1900s, a guy you may have heard of, Henry Ford, started Ford Motor Company. And then I believe he was actually in business with the Dodge brothers, too. So, shortly following after that, you had General Motors and Chrysler, and those obviously make up the big three automakers. And they helped Detroit become what it was, and form Michigan as a state as well. And that's where we got the nickname Motown for Detroit.
Nice. Okay. Well, let's move on to a little bit of the geography, because again, you are surrounded by a variety of different states and another country. So, like, what is in your proximity?
All right, so we're obviously up in the northern Midwest. We're like the 11th biggest state in the country, commonly referred to as the mitten state or the glove, just because of the shape. We're one of the easiest states to spot on the map when you're looking, because we're surrounded by those Great Lakes, and it forms that mitten or glove shape. We've got Ohio and Indiana to our south, land borders. And we also share a land border with Wisconsin from the Upper Peninsula. In addition to that, we've got 4 international ports of entry between Canada. There's 2 not very far from where I live in Detroit. There's one in Port Huron, which is more up by the thumb of Michigan. And then up in the Upper Peninsula, we've got Sault Ste. Marie, which shares a border there with Canada.
Fantastic. Now, you guys get a little bit of extreme weather in your specific area. I understand temperatures can get down to frigid.
Oh yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about any type of extreme weather incidents that happen. Like blizzards or
Yeah,
things
right.
like that.
Right now the weather is cold. So here in the Lower Peninsula, we have 4 very distinct seasons. Okay, we've got warm to hot summers, cool to warm springs and falls, and then cold winters with usually lots of snow. Up in the Upper Peninsula, it's a little more extreme. Their summers are nice, but kind of cool and relaxing. But their winters, they're frigid and a ton of snow.
I would imagine being surrounded by all those lakes, you probably have a pretty sizable amount of humidity in your area.
Yeah, it gets very humid. So the heat here in the summers, it can get into the 90s, and you walk out the door, and the second you're out, you're dripping with sweat.
You're like, I need a shower right away.
Oh yeah. And here in the southern part of Michigan, where I'm at, we also have tornadoes that come through. We're not Tornado Alley by any of the means, but I believe as far as in terms of numbers of tornadoes that we get, we're not really far behind that, but it's primarily across the southern part of the state.
Those are usually during the spring and summertime. They don't really get into the winter time.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, and something, if I may, something I wanted to talk about. We're talking about all of the lakes. Michigan has, I think it's over 3,200 miles of freshwater shoreline. That's more than any other state in the U.S. And because of that, it's big shipping channels, and not so much as it used to be, but we have a lot of lighthouses. I think there used to be over 200 lighthouses along the shoreline in Michigan. There's still over 100, and with COVID being the way it was and unable to travel internationally, like you said earlier, this past summer, my wife and I hopped in the car and we went and we visited a bunch of lighthouses and just really got out and saw what Michigan was all about. So we had a really good time with that.
Funny that you mentioned that. And before we started recording, we talked a little bit about how a lot of the travel influencers are talking now about, or maybe making some changes in their channel over the last year because of COVID, to incorporate a little bit more domestic travel. Is that something that you've had to do on your channel?
I did is so if your students go to my channel, and they'll have to dig deep, because I've turned it back towards cruising, because that's my love and that's my passion. But I really, I've lived in Michigan for over 40 years, but since I was a little kid and my parents took me around the state, I hadn't really gone out into the state much. But last year, being unable to cruise with so many cruises canceled, we wanted to get out and do something. So my wife and I said, you know what, we're going to go do some vlogs. So one of our tourism promotions here in the state is Pure Michigan. So I did a short Pure Michigan series that, they got quite a few views. I think I've got 4 or 5 videos posted, and they are on the Cruise World channel. I will eventually move those over to another channel that's primarily just general travel related. But yeah, I mean, if any of your students want to see more of what I saw for Pure Michigan, just a little taste, I do have 4 or 5 Pure Michigan video vlogs on the channel.
And
so,
that's at the Cruise World on YouTube. Is that correct?
Yeah, the cruise. If you type in the Cruise World, I should be the first one that pops up. They might have to scroll down a little in the video sections to get to those, but to answer your question simply, yes, I did, because I just was trying to figure out how to navigate, running a channel that's all about cruising when there's no cruising. But I've shifted to keeping people updated on news and other things that are going on, and just looking forward to getting back to cruising. But man, one of the silver linings that came out of it was getting out and seeing the beautiful state that has surrounded me my whole life.
Awesome. And I want to compliment you on that, because it really does allow us to, get out, understand a little bit more about our general area, and maybe some things that we hadn't really had the opportunity to explore, just because either we didn't have the time, the resources, or just the inclination to want to do it previously. So awesome. Now let's talk a little bit about the culture of Michigan, and there is a lot of Pure Michigan going on there. In terms of the religion predominantly within your area, I think it primarily is Christian, correct?
Yeah, for the most part, the state primarily identifies as Christian. Yeah.
Okay. Then in terms of art in the community that you have there, whether that's performance art or whether that's fine arts, you have some famous people, obviously, David Spade, Madonna's from Detroit, famous director John Hughes is from Michigan as well. Any others that maybe are slipping through my grasp there?
Well, Motown also birthed a sound that's known worldwide as well, with the Motown sound. So you've got a lot of folks like that in the music industry, and more recently Eminem, Kid Rock, Bob Seger from the area, and Ted Nugent. And we also have a lot of we've got museums and venues, like you said too, the Detroit Institute of Art, Henry Ford Museum in Greenfield Village.
Oh, yeah.
If you love the automotive, cars and automotive, it's a wonderful place to go. But yeah, a lot of famous people. Actress Kristen Bell, who's pretty popular now. She's from this area as well.
Yeah, especially if you're a Frozen fan. Awesome. Yeah. And then, of course, if again, speaking of Disney, if you're a fan of Toy Story, the voice of Buzz Lightyear is from there as well, correct?
Absolutely, Tim Allen, and he actually voices our Pure Michigan commercials that we have for the state.
Wonderful. Awesome. Now, in terms of the language within your area, it's predominantly English, but there are, a smattering of like minor dialects or languages that are that are sprinkled in the area, correct?
Oh yeah. We do have a good sized Polish, Hispanic, and Arabic population in Metro Detroit. So you will run across Spanish and Arabic, and then we also have a good sized Dutch population on the west side of the state in Holland, which is also a wonderful place to visit, and you can see the tulips and the windmills they have out there. So it's pretty interesting.
So it's quite literally going to like a little mini Amsterdam in a way.
It absolutely is. They don't have all the canals, but yeah, it's got a real Dutch feeling out there. It's a fun place to visit. And it's one of the places that I visited last summer.
Excellent. Now, on my favorite topic, which is of course food, you guys have your own, you guys have your own style of pizza. How do you classify like a Detroit pizza, or like what exactly is it?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, I don't. It's a little bit more of a deep dish, and I'm not really crazy about that personally. But you're absolutely right. We do have a lot of foods that are iconic to Michigan, and one of the big things I think, especially if you go downtown in Detroit, would be the Coney dogs. We've got some famous hot dog places that have been seen on a lot of the television channels. If you head up to the Upper Peninsula, they've got pasties, which are like little meat pies that they're very famous for. Another really cool city to visit in Michigan is Frankenmuth. It's basically known as Little Bavaria, so it's like a little taste of Germany here. It's the Christmas capital of the world. They've got the biggest Christmas store in the world called Bronner's. It's open. It's only closed like a couple days a year, I think Christmas and Easter. And they are famous for their fried chicken up there. So you definitely have to check that out if you're in town.
Okay.
Cherries. I see the cherries you've got there on the slide. Those come from Traverse City. They have a huge cherry festival every year. South Haven has a blueberry festival. And another place that I went this past summer, Mackinac Island, a beautiful place. You cross the bridge. Well, I guess you can catch a ferry to Mackinac Island from either the lower peninsula or the upper peninsula, but you'll leave right from there. It's not far from the Mackinac Bridge, and they are the world capital for making fudge. So fudge is amazing there.
Yeah, fudge is amazing in general. Yeah. So it's one of my favorite confections. So
any flavor you want of fudge, they're making it up there. And I see on the slide you also have a Polish treat there that is spelled kind of weird, but is actually pronounced punchkis. And that's a Polish treat that's big on Fat Tuesdays. And again, we have Hamtramck, which is a suburb here in Metro Detroit. Has a big Polish population, and the bakeries there, they make punchkis, which are essentially 2,000 calorie jelly-filled donuts.
That sounds incredibly healthy and very soulful in a way. I like soul food, and so that's one of the things I was like, it just makes me feel good to have something like that once in a while. You don't eat it all the time, maybe once a year.
No, that's exactly it, once a year. Yeah,
and then in terms of sports and recreation, what are you wearing on your lapel right there?
Well, it's tough. We've got all four major sports here in Michigan. They're all based out of our largest city, again, Detroit. Detroit's not our capital. Lansing is our capital, but Detroit has the major sports. We've got the Detroit Tigers in baseball. We've got the Pistons for basketball, the Red Wings for hockey, and of course, my Detroit Lions.
Your beloved Lions.
And man, we've struggled in Michigan sports, but we also host a Grand Prix on Belle Isle, which is right here in Detroit, and we have NASCAR in the state as well at the Michigan Speedway in Brooklyn.
Excellent. Now, in terms of the and you also have college sports too that are pretty big.
We got huge rivalries with Michigan State University Spartans and the University of Michigan Wolverines, and we've got just a lot of sports there with the different colleges: Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan. But obviously the big rivalry is between the Spartans and the Wolverines, and it's pretty divided unless we're playing Ohio State, and then we all root for the Michigan.
Well, that's good. And then finally, I don't think you don't have any major holidays that are state specific in your area, do you?
Not specific. You know, we love celebrating all of the major holidays that the majority of America does, but no specific holidays to my knowledge, anyway.
And clearly Christmas up in your area there too.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Frankenmuth is big. You know, quick little story was pretty crazy. One time I was in Florida on I-75 and I saw a billboard for Bronner's in Frankenmuth, Michigan, and I'm like, man, that would be something. If somebody sees a billboard down in Florida and says, you know what, let's head up to Michigan and go do some Christmas shopping. I don't know how smart that was to put that down there, but I thought that was pretty neat to see that all the way down there.
if it's got a website on there, I'm sure it's going to hit a few hits at least. Yeah. But I think part of the charm though is to come up once a year, maybe to check out this, the store and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We're, like my family's just starting to get into Christmas because we have a mixed family, and so we definitely are like starting to build up our ornament collection as far as certain things that we want to have. So as we go along through that process, we're going to get rid of the plastic ornaments in favor of the more collectible ornaments and things like that. So that way it could be generational at that point.
Yeah, and that's your place to go. I mean, you walk around that store, which is huge, and they've got all of the different sections. So any hobby or sports team or profession, anything you can think of that somebody likes to do, they've got a section of ornaments for you.
Awesome. So let's talk really quick about the population of your state. Now, in general, do you know how like what the general population is of the state?
Yeah, it's around 10 million people.
Okay. So in that, we have, if you look at the map here, and for those that are on the podcast, you can certainly come onto YouTube and get some of the beautiful pictures that are part of the slides presentation here. We see that there are certain population centers that are very heavily highlighted in either red or orange. Can you tell me where these areas are?
Yeah, that's right down there. That's mainly Wayne and Oakland County, and where you're pointing right now, and that's Detroit.
Okay.
So you'll see Canada is right across from that, right to the east.
Okay.
And to the south of Detroit. So yeah, that's Detroit, and that's obviously you can see where the majority of Michigan lives, and it's the most populous area there.
Now, if we go up just a little bit from there, a little diagonally, we have a couple of other population centers that are.
Yeah, I'm going to say, looking at the map there, I'm going to say that's Flint, the one that's just to the north, to the northwest there. So you've got the Bay City, Saginaw, Midland, Flint area. Flint is one of the larger cities in our state as well. And I will throw a little bit of history now that I just thought about it. Flint, if you want to stump somebody, Flint is the largest city in the U.S. that is a one-syllable name.
Oh, very cool. And then where's Lansing?
Lansing is about halfway in between. So if you go right in the lower middle of the state there, down right there, I'm going to say that's Lansing. It's about halfway between Detroit and Grand Rapids, which is the red blurb on the left side there. Okay. And Grand Rapids is the second largest city in the state.
Now, for my students who are looking at this, they'll notice that the Upper Peninsula actually is pretty devoid of any major population centers, which is quite surprising. It was really surprising to me to take a look at it. You have a theory as to why that might be the case.
Yeah, it's bitter cold there. I mean, I know I'm not. I like playing out in the snow as much as the next guy. But I'm not trying to be surrounded by it, for 7-8 months of the year. But there's also a lot of forest area, a lot of state land and some federal land up there. And I'm going to tell you, it's a beautiful place to visit. There are a bunch of waterfalls up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. There's actually, if you search it, you can on Google, you can find some routes to take, some road trips where you can see a bunch of beautiful waterfalls. But I think Marquette is probably the most populated city up there. But as you can see, it wasn't enough to get even a red blip.
Yeah, it's well, compared to the population centers where you have like Detroit, which are just, or Flint, that are overwhelmingly, or Grand Rapids. So yeah, I totally get it. Now, in terms of the economy, as we've obviously mentioned, Motor City is like a huge push for for your state. So you have obviously Ford, GM, um, Penske, obviously for any trucks,
Mhm.
Whirlpool for the technology of like washers and dryers and things like that. Your electrical provider is DTE, is that correct?
Yeah, DTE Energy. They're the ones that they're the ones that are allowing me to hook up and broadcast with you today. So very important there. I think one that everybody can relate to down there is Kellogg's. Everybody loves a good cereal every now and then, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we also have Post here, and those are located in Battle Creek, Michigan, which is sort of south central Michigan. It's just in between Grand Rapids and Michigan or Detroit.
Excellent.
Some of the other big companies that folks may know that aren't on that list, I think, are Dow Chemical.
Mhm.
And when you mentioned pizzas earlier, now these aren't traditional Detroit pizzas, but we're also the home of Domino's Pizza
Oh yeah.
and Little Caesars. We've actually got an arena where the Red Wings and Pistons play is Little Caesars Arena.
Oh wow.
Amway's from Michigan, Quicken Loans, and
Mm.
Lazy Boy. And who doesn't love a good Lazy Boy recliner?
I could use one right now. I'm telling you, this chair is not the easiest to sit on for any length
Yeah.
of time. Then, as we get into travel and transportation, you have, MDOT obviously manages your roadways there.
Yep.
With all the snow you guys get, pothole situations okay over there?
No,
Or
no, there's plenty of potholes. I think. Listen, I think personally, MDOT does a decent job when we get the snow. At least in my areas, they're usually out pretty good. Throwing the salt out, plowing. Sometimes you get the snow fast and it's tough. You just got to be patient. But I think they do a pretty good job clearing the roads for the most part. We also have our counties, so where I'm at, it's the County Road Commission that's responsible for all the local roads. So MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation, they'll cover the highways and whatnot. So it's a collaboration. But because of all the harsh weather that we have and the substances and throwing the salt down, potholes are a major issue, and the road conditions are crazy. We've got two seasons basically here. We've got winter and we've got construction. Those are the two seasons. There's always something under construction, and I don't think there's anything they can do about it. But you go to other places like California where you're at, or places where they don't have these extreme conditions, and man, those roads are smooth. You got it. Oh, and Monroe, right? Monroe makes shocks and struts. They're located. They came out of Monroe, Michigan, so they make a killing here because I tell you what, we got to replace those all the time.
do you have a situation where, do most people either? And again, I'm making a sweeping generalization, so
Okay.
please correct me if I'm wrong. But would you say that most people have either a truck or an SUV or something with four-wheel capability?
Especially now in later model vehicles where all-wheel drive is an option in a lot of those as well. Yeah, tons of trucks here. I mean, I don't know. I'm generalizing here, but I'd say it's close to 50-50 now with cars or trucks / SUVs.
Yeah.
I know that we have two vehicles. One's a front wheel drive and one is all wheel drive. I've had rear wheel drive vehicles. I used to be a Mustang guy, and you can try to make them work here in the winter, but it's not very fun.
Maybe if you're living directly in a city like Detroit, it might be a little bit easier where they're regularly plowing the streets all the time, as opposed to out just even in the suburbs
Yeah,
of Detroit.
and we've got a lot of farm area, and we still have a lot of roads in the more rural areas that are dirt roads. They're not paved. And
Oh,
when the snow and ice comes down, you can't roll on that not with a rear wheel drive. 4-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, you can at least get it to pass, but there's no, they don't run the plow trucks down there as much. They don't salt as much. So you got to have something that can get you around, and I think that's why you do see a lot of SUVs and trucks in this area.
Makes sense. What about in terms of other transportation types, whether it's airports, lake ports, train depots, the ferry system? You may mention you guys have a ferry system that takes you from one of the side of the peninsula to the other.
Yeah, well, that's mainly what I was speaking of. It would be the ferries that run to Mackinac Island, and there's some other things to do there. The main way to get across from the Lower Peninsula to the Upper Peninsula is the Mackinac Bridge, which is a beautiful bridge. But yeah, the ferries that I was speaking of mainly go to Mackinac Island. So we've got Detroit Metro Airport, which is the biggest airport in the state. We have a nice size airport in Grand Rapids. Lansing and Flint also have airports that I believe are international airports. We've got some busing systems, but it's not the commuter. We have no commuter trains or subways. We do have some Amtrak stations, and in like Flint and Detroit and Grand Rapids, there are some busing companies that can get people around. But for the most part, in the state of Michigan, I mean, almost everybody has their own vehicle.
Okay. And then in terms of tourism in your state, like when I normally think of tourism, I think of either amusement parks or large shopping metro areas.
Mhm.
Anything pop to mind for you that like people are like, oh, you have to come here in order to do this or go here or see this?
I think the big draw on Michigan is pure Michigan. It's, you can come here in the summer and you can have all of your water sports, your boating, your fishing, hunting is big here. In the winter, you can come and you can do all of your snow sports, snowmobiling, skiing, things like that. We've got some beautiful places, Silver Lake Sand Dunes, Sleeping Bear Sand Dunes, Kitchitikipi is an awesome man-made lake. There's a lot of beautiful things. We do have a theme park. It's Michigan Adventure. It's on the west side, over on the west coast of the state, near Muskegon, that a lot of people love to go to. But I just think Michigan itself, nothing man-made. I think the just the state is the draw. It's pure Michigan.
Just the nature of it all.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Now let's talk really briefly about the government in your area. So obviously you have federal and then you have state and local.
Mhm.
Is it pretty much split, would you say, between the Republicans and Democrats, like conservative and liberal for the most part, or is it heavily
Yeah.
one more than the other?
I this is my personal belief, and I think it is pretty split. We're the last couple of elections, it's been neck and neck, and I think in the higher populated areas would lean Democrat,
Mhm.
whereas the greener areas on that map you showed, for the most part, lean Republican.
Okay. And that's the same both on the federal and on the local level, would you say?
Yeah, that's my take on it.
Okay. Perfect. Now, in terms of resources, just some of the natural resources I tend to think about for purposes of Michigan, obviously copper, iron, salt. God knows you need a lot of salt, especially on the roadways there. But you have a different take as well on some of the natural resources just in your area based on the natural beauty of your area.
Yeah, when I think of natural resources, I'm thinking about the forests, the lakes. We have wetlands here in the state. We have sand dunes. So fishing and wildlife is huge here in the state of Michigan, and that's what a lot of people come here to the state do, and that's why a lot of people that live here in the state choose to live here.
Excellent. Also, in terms of education, not to think that the entire state is just a nature preserve. I mean, obviously, you guys have major
Yeah.
cities. Detroit is a huge city, but then you also have a couple of major colleges. You have Michigan State University, which was founded back in the mid 1800s, and then
Mhm.
University of Michigan, early 1800s. But you also have a couple of other major colleges as well, correct?
Yeah, we've got Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Western Michigan, Northern Michigan. I mean, I don't know if you're seeing a pattern here, but there are some other ones as well. Lots of private colleges and religious institutions. So, and the public schools that we have around here are good too. At least I know in the area that I'm in, very very good public schools.
Literacy rate pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's around the average. I did take a peek, and it's around 91%, which I believe comes right in around average for the country.
Okay, perfect. Then finally, in terms of safety and security, when I think of safety and security, obviously when you get into larger cities like Detroit, Los Angeles, where I'm at,
Mhm.
you just got to know where to go and certain times of where to go as well. It's to protect yourself, be smart, obviously. But in terms of major crimes, nothing really comes to mind in terms of like mass murder or anything that's really crazy there. And
Yeah, no, we do. Detroit obviously is historically known as one of the most dangerous cities, and we've also got some other high crime areas in Flint and Grand Rapids. But yeah, like you said, there's no real things that stand out. As with any big city, you are, and you watch the news, you are going to hear about some murders and some violent crimes. And I'm not going to candy coat it. Detroit can be a dangerous place in areas. It is especially the downtown area is really pushing to modernize and be a vibrant place where tourists can come. Um, but the only thing really that I can think of in our state that made major headlines anytime recently was just this past year when we did have an anti-government group place death threats against our governor and plotted to kidnap her.
gosh, that's crazy. Well, on that note, let's end this on a little bit of a higher note,
All
though.
right, sounds good. Sorry about that.
So no, it's appreciated, especially when my students are interested in wanting to know more about places and travel. It's important to kind of. I appreciate that you don't sugarcoat it because it's important for us to get a better understanding of, okay, if I'm going to go there, what are some things I'd want to be aware of? But on that same token, let's end with this. If I had a round trip ticket and I just happened to go to anywhere in Michigan, why am I going to Michigan? Why would you recommend that I go to Michigan?
If you love the outdoors, Michigan is the place to be. You can go up to the UP and you can see beautiful waterfalls. Mackinac Island is just it's like stepping back in time. There's the only vehicles on the island are emergency vehicles, a fire truck and a police. You get around with horse and carriage or bicycles. So that's an awesome place to go. If you want the taste of a city, we've got the great sports in Detroit with a vibrant and growing downtown area with a beautiful river walk where you can walk along the Detroit River with Windsor, Ontario, Canada, right across the bridge there. It's just a beautiful place. Like I said earlier, the Cherry Festival in Traverse City, it's great. If you love being able to have the different seasons, appreciate fall and the beautiful colors, on the trees in the fall, the winter, and then the spring as it starts to warm up, and then the summers. You can't beat the summers here in Michigan.
Well, I will have to give it a shot. So thank you for the invite. And again, thank you so much for being part of this. I really appreciate you sharing this information with my students. Thank you so
And
much.
I appreciate you having me. Like I said earlier, the silver lining of this whole pandemic was me being able to relearn about my state and all of the things that have surrounded me my whole life that I just kind of took for granted. I love seeing the world, but sometimes you got to see what's right around you too. Don't be blind to it.
Well, but you do have some exciting adventures coming up too, correct?
I do. I have a lot of cruises planned, and the next one is out of Barcelona, and I really hope that it goes, but I'm not going to hold my breath on it.
Well, keep it in mind as a destination because I got to tell you, it's one of my favorite spots. And I know you've been there a little bit before, but I'm telling you, it's going to be amazing. If my students did want to take a look at your adventures, like what would be the best place for them to go and check that out?
You can check it out on the Cruise World Cruise World on YouTube.
Mhm.
If you dig deep, you can see some of my older adventures. Where I went to Egypt. I saw Petra in Jordan, which is an amazing place. So yeah, and you can also join our Facebook group. It's the Cruise World on Facebook, where we talk about cruising and having fun, and That's where I'm at. It's all about the cruise world with me.
Absolutely. And we're going to keep track of that. And so for all my students out there, definitely go see Mark and his wonderful wife at The Cruise World on YouTube and all of the different sites. Mark, again, thank you so very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Now, for my students that are out there, if you have any questions or comments on this or any other videos that I produce, please feel free to send me an email at scott@theprofessortravel.com. If you want to be informed when new videos come up, hit that little bell icon right above us here in order to be able to be notified about that. If you haven't already done so, please feel free to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and we certainly appreciate that. And if you like this video and you'd like to continue to receive this content, hit that thumbs up button. If you're listening on the podcast, however, by all means, certainly feel free to rate us and give us a review. We really appreciate any and all the feedback. But until our next time, my name is Scott, and I am the Professor Travel. Make it a wonderful day. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.